Life Check Yourself with Jennifer Fable, the truth about how to set next level boundaries. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Life Check Yourself. Today I have the amazing Jennifer Fable. I love what she's all about because her mantra, personally and professionally, is 4 really powerful words. Write them down. Already you're going to get a ton of value from this episode. Those 4 words, you are not broken. This phrase, as I said, is Jennifer's personal and professional mantra. It's one she's passionate about. She shares it with as many people as possible. We're happy to be part of her mission. After being diagnosed with over 7 different mental health conditions by the age of 19, Jennifer embarked on a transformative and unique journey of healing and self-discovery, and her experiences shaped an unwavering belief that no one is broken and everyone has the power to find the healing that they deserve. And today she's an author, a master hypnotherapist, an emotional resiliency coach, and she's helped hundreds of clients regain control of their lives by breaking free from emotional baggage. She does retreats and trainings, and she's got a podcast, the BTG podcast, and she helps women just like you and me build emotional resilience, strengthen their relationships, and step into their most authentic selves, which you know we love. We're here today to talk about her new book, which I love the title, How to Set Boundaries Without Feeling Like a Dick. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to finally meet. We've had a couple back and forth, and I was excited to read in your latest, or one of your newsletters, that you're learning how to play Mahjong.
I am learning how to play Mahjong.
I don't play it, but my mom, always, that was once or twice a week, always Tuesday afternoons for sure, Thursday evening sometimes. There was Mahjong at our house or in rotation.
That's so funny. There's Mahjong at my house tonight. I rarely win. I love to play. I think that's my thing of games. I like to play, rarely win. And people that are really competitive are always like, doesn't it bug you that I'm like, no, I just like to play.
It's really about the socialization and the snacks is what I was really.
The snacks, I believe dessert will be served. So I'm super excited tonight.
That's awesome.
So let's talk about your book. One of the things that I wanted to start off with is, and I actually just wrote something about this too, about this belief that people have that, and I definitely struggled this for so long. I'm a resilient, strong, emotionally incapable, intelligent woman. I can get shit done. I really don't need your help. I don't really need to bother you, or I don't really need to ask you. And then we put the needs of other people, they're more important than our needs because we're capable. And then we just don't set boundaries. We tolerate a lot of shit. Can you talk about that? Because I think that is the most subtle form of avoiding setting boundaries.
100%. Great question. And I think we need to realize that just because we can do something doesn't mean that we should, that we have to. We don't often check in, do I want to do this? Or do I still want to do this? Because maybe I wanted to do it, and maybe something in me has changed, something in my life has changed. And so we really don't ask ourselves, what do I want? Which is the crux of boundaries. We think boundaries are about other people, but it's really about knowing what you want and knowing how to share what you want in a way that connects you with others and doesn't make them go on the offense or defense because now you're on opposite teams.
That's really big, because I think I talk to people all the time and they're like, I'm good at boundaries, but they push people away. Yes. And sometimes it's an unconscious, they want to, right? So talk to me about that. How do you know if you're being kind enough?
So I actually have a whole chapter on the difference between boundaries and conditions.
Okay.
So when people say things like, you can't talk to me that way, or I deserve better, that's wonderful. It's very empowering. In the case of, you can't talk to me that way, that's not necessarily true. Because they did talk to me that way. That's likely why you're upset. And so what we think we have to do is now be stronger, harder, and hold more against it. No. And eventually they're like, all right. And they leave. And so we feel empowered. But what we've done is we've put a wall up instead of a boundary. And the thing with walls is that once you build them, that's where they stay. They don't move. So while you might be safe and protected, you'll eventually feel stuck, and you'll eventually come up against the walls that you built to keep yourself safe. So you can only grow so much when we put up walls. So we'll feel safe, we'll feel empowered, we'll have spoken our truth, but we haven't used our voice in a way to connect us with others. So we're missing such a big part of what boundaries could be if we know how to use them.
I love this. So let's use like, you can't talk to me that way. Like, I love that one. So is that possible to have a boundary around that?
100%.
Like, how would you say that?
So one of the things I teach in the book is a linguistic formula called the boundaries blueprint.
I love it.
And it's a 3-step formula. So instead of saying you can't talk to me that way, which is objectively wrong because they can, I can say, I appreciate that you're really upset right now, and I would love to be spoken to more gently and at a lower volume. And so I've now shared something I want. I've given them new information as opposed to trying to control their behavior, which that doesn't work. I mean, humans really don't like it when people tell us what to do.
That
really
is so true. And so I think that that's a really big nuance, that when misguided or misdirected, you're in the illusion that you're setting a boundary, but what you're really trying to do is control.
Yes. It's manipulation in disguise. The other person will smell it a mile away, and they will get defensive, or they will go on the offense and come after you because you've basically tried to manipulate them or control their behavior. Even if you didn't intend to, even if this new behavior is better for them, we have free will. We fight very hard for free will. And so being able to share what I want without infringing on your free will allows me to keep myself safe and be flexible enough to create relationships with others. Otherwise, I've got all these walls that are surrounding me, but I'm lonely and I feel like I just can't find my people. I can't fit in anywhere. I don't belong. And so that leads to loneliness. So now we're safe and protected, and we know no one can talk to us that way. But so what? We're supposed to know that so that we can connect with others. And it turns out that there's linguistic patterns we can use that make it so much easier. It doesn't have to come from a place of confidence.
Interesting. And so, and what happens when, cause I've had this situation, I was thinking of something recent where I set a boundary in a really super nice way. And the person was like, hey, come on, can't we just do this? Or how about we do that? Or, well, I had to do this, so you could at least do that. Like, what do we do when we're setting boundaries and people don't hear us?
Yeah, I call it the yeah, but.
Yeah.
Say what you want, and they go, yeah, but, and then they tell you all the reasons why you're wrong. And part of the boundaries blueprint is knowing how to work with challenges. And so I talk all about that. So basically you agree with whatever they said, and then you restate what it is you want. And you're agreeing not that you believe in what they said or you agree with what they said, you're agreeing that what they said is valid. So it's a validation versus an affirmation. So if they're like, but why can't we do this and blah, 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 you just, whenever they stop talking, you go, yeah. And I would love to be spoken to at a lower volume and more gently, right? Both of those are capable of coexisting in the same space. It doesn't have to be an either or. You want this, and I'm just saying what I want too. And eventually, when you do that enough times, you'll come to a place of negotiation, which I also talk about in the book, how to negotiate in a way that's not compromise. Because compromise is like, let's both of us give up stuff and be equally miserable.
Right. And resentful.
And resentful, right? But just a little bit and in equal portions, right? And so there's better ways. And again, it's linguistics. One of my passions is I'm a word nerd. And so there are linguistic patterns that help us, that can make it easier for us to communicate our needs without having to be nice. Because nice is, I'm going to do what you want. I'm going to appease you. I'm using my voice for appeasement versus empowerment. And again, I think that we have so much more potential there.
So are there any words that are like no-nos?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So, everyone knows the tries and the buts.
Right.
So try presupposes failure. You mentioned, so I am a master hypnotherapist. I don't tell people that a ton because it scares them, but it's a really fun way to have good conversations with people on airplanes.
Yeah.
They always ask me if I can make them cluck like a chicken. And I'm like, the chicken put out a very good PR campaign. I don't know how they got the marketing.
That's so funny.
So when we are communicating with other people, we want to make sure that we are using our voice, like I said, for an empowerment. So try presupposes failure. In hypnosis, if I want someone to not do something, I use the word try on purpose. So it gives your brain an out. The word but linguistically cuts off what was said ahead of time. So in the boundaries blueprint, the way it works, so step one is it's multiple choice.
Okay.
So you either choose I appreciate, I respect, I agree, or I love. So the linguistic trap is often we start with I understand. So when I say to someone, I understand, somewhere deep down, you know they're thinking, no, you don't. If you understood, you'd agree with me.
Ah, okay.
Right? So linguistically, it actually breaks a connection. It actually makes the person feel less understood, ironically.
So you say, I love, I appreciate. What were the other ones? I want everyone to write them down.
I appreciate, I respect, I agree, I love.
Okay, great.
Okay, so pick one of those and then pick something like legitimate about the situation that you can appreciate. Like even if it's, I appreciate you're really angry and loud right now. But don't lie and be like, I appreciate your point of view when you think you're a dingnut, right? So be honest. So something you can appreciate or respect about the situation. The second step is and. So a lot of us will say, I understand where you're coming from, but I don't want to be spoken to that way. So the word but, the second you say the word but, whatever you said before it gets erased because the word but is like a warning for our neurology. And so automatically it makes our neurology be like, pay attention to what comes after this.
Right.
So you don't need whatever was before that. So it'll erase it from the other person's mind.
Okay.
The third one is to share what you want without making it a command or to-do list for the other person. And you do that by starting with the words I would love and then avoiding the word you in what you want. So I would love you to stop talking to me that way. I would love you to take out the trash. I would love you to give me a hug when I come home. These are all great, but it's about someone else's behavior. And like I said, people don't like being told what to do.
Got it. Okay.
So we want to avoid the word you. We want to word it so I would love to be spoken to more gently. I would love for the garbage to be taken out every night. I would love to have a big hug every time I come home. I can still share what I want without making it a command or to-do list for the other person.
That's so important because I was talking to someone else who I know has a little rebel, like 13-year-old living inside her, And so when you say like, I would just love for you to do something, even when I say it, I could just feel like I don't want to do that. Right. But like, I'd love a hug. I'd love to come home to the dishwasher running.
Yeah. That's just me sharing what I want without the other person doesn't have to listen to me. They are welcome to completely ignore it all the time. If that happens on a consistent basis, that's really good feedback to me about the relationship.
Yeah.
If I continuously share what I want in a way that doesn't make it a command, that doesn't try to control someone else's behavior, and I'm just sharing what I want and the other person's like, meh, valuable feedback. But if I'm always making it a command or always linguistically cutting things off or lying to be nice, then I never know if the other person can actually be there for me.
Totally. Okay. This is so good. I'm making notes. It's so good. I want to make sure I hit on all these things. So let me ask you this question about boundaries in families. I know so many instances of people where, and maybe maybe it's a condition, right? But they're like, okay, you've shit on me for all these years, or, I've tried to do this and I've tried to do that. And now, it just doesn't feel good anymore. When you're in those kinds of nuanced situations, is there any incident or incidents of opening those back up? Or is that something that, when we say no and then we come back, are we not holding our boundaries? Do we undermine our credibility? How do we make this a living, breathing thing? Or is it just like sometimes we have to release these things or let go of the idea of how it could be?
So the entire purpose of boundaries is to know what they want, know what you want, both of you share it, and then find a way to negotiate so both people get their needs met in a way that make both people happy with how it turned out. Like I said, I talk about that in the book and how to use language as a means of negotiation. But we're supposed to come back together. If I say no and then I never revisit it, is that a boundary or is that a wall? Is that a wall, right? So yeah, we're supposed to revisit it. I grow, the situation grows. I can change my mind. I can learn new information. And so the whole point of boundaries is that they're meant to be, instead of walls, more like a bubble that can grow and shrink. I think of it so. I'm a musical nerd as well. So with Wicked coming out and everyone, I'm walking around singing it. I'm one of those. And I love, Glinda when she travels in her bubble.
Yes.
She puts it up and travels. She can make it bigger, smaller. She can pop it to walk around, then put it back up. That's kind of how your boundary should be, like a bubble. You can still talk and interact through it. You can move it as needed. So that's what it's supposed to be. So if you're just like, no, and then never again, check, it's probably become a condition and no longer a boundary.
Oh, I love that. That's it. See, life check yourself, ladies.
Yes.
I think that in my own journey, like my tendency to want to do that is because there's that part of me that's wants to defend, right? Like if I open it up, if I poke through the bubble and I'm like, hey, and then I'm like, rejection or hey, whatever, it feels shitty. What do you say to people to help them be courageous and resilient in the bubble life versus the walled-in, armored life?
I would say play with the linguistic formula, play with the boundaries blueprints, because the language patterns does the work for you. It's totally okay if when you say the sentence, because once you do all 3 steps, you end up with a sentence. And then, there's a 4th step, the magic 4th step to make it all work.
Oh, well, we need to know the magic 4th step. Yes. And y'all want to get this book, by the way, because I feel like it's going to be like by your computer, by your phone. So you're like, hey, let me just see what Jennifer says I should say. Okay, go ahead.
So once you say your single sentence, the 4th step is you have to shut up. And it's the hardest step because when we're really nice, we just want to explain to the other person why. Because if they only knew why, they'd agree with us. And so we want to manipulate them into agreeing with us, and it doesn't go over well. Right? So we have to be quiet. We have to say what we want, and then give them a moment to process this. And it can take time. So my mom was the queen of no boundary. Like I used to say, every boundary has to be tested about 3 times. Unless you're my mother, and then it's constantly.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Right? So like she legit had said to me multiple times, she's like, I don't even know I don't even know what boundaries are. That doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I know. And so with her, there was one time I was talking to her, and thank goodness it was on the phone, 45 seconds until she spoke. 45 seconds of silence.
Oh God, you're just like dying inside.
So luckily it was on the phone, so I pushed the mute button, and if you do this, check. So I pushed mute and then checked that it was muted, and then I just yelled at her for how long she was taking to respond.
That's such a good trick. Note to self.
Who takes this long? Check to make sure it's on mute. And in person, you can't do this, so I always recommend singing a song in your head. I use the song from the 1990s cartoon, The Animaniacs. Which is a song of all the countries of the world in the 90s. It's different now, but I still know them all. It's embedded in my brain. So sing a song in your head.
Love it.
Just keep yourself busy, but be quiet because they have to have a space to respond. So boundaries are meant to be a bridge to connect us with someone else. We can't just run over into their space and drag them into a conversation. We have to open it up for an invitation and let them meet us there. And they won't if we're so busy explaining why they're wrong and why we're right.
This is so huge because I used to, when I was just doing only dating coaching, I would talk to people and I'd say like, you're not on trial, right? Like you don't say your thing and then give your like speech to the jury, like it's not your opening statement. And I get that, like that wanting to explain because the underlying thought is like, I'm not right, or I'm not deserving of this, or you need to see my point of view. But what I hear you saying, Jennifer, is that some sort of version of agree to disagree, but also not just like leave it at that or not compromise to the point where it's not really something you want.
Yeah, so you're supposed to open this space, and then it's not an agree to disagree. It's an agree to come together and find ways for us to both win. It's an agreement for a conversation. right? So if your boundary is not leading to a deeper conversation, you're probably setting up a wall. You've probably set up a condition. It should open a space. So eventually it opens a space. Now, in some really toxic cases, or my mother, love your mom. She's gone now for a couple of years, but she's here all the time. And honestly, she thinks it's hilarious now. All right. So every single time I would share a boundary with her, it never went over well. She'd hang up the phone on me. She'd scream at me. She is my litmus test. And so I did that, and she had cluster B personality disorder. So multiple diagnoses. It made it hard for her to understand the concepts of it. And even still, hearing myself say out loud, I love you and I would love to be your daughter and not your therapist. Or I love you and I would love to stay home this weekend. Even if she slammed down the phone and hated it, I got to hear myself give voice to what I want. People talk about manifestation and vision boards. You want to create magic in your life, know what you want and share it that way. Because every time you do that, you're creating magic for yourself to the point where it doesn't even matter what the person's reaction is. The magic of boundaries is teaching you how to open a space for connection. They don't have to connect with you. But for you to feel safe enough to open up a space without feeling confident about it, like I said, if your voice shakes when you say the sentence, if you don't believe it's going to work, it still works. I've got there's a client of mine who, so it worked a lot with my mom, but to give an example, that's not me.
Yeah.
I had because highly biased, so obviously but I had a client who had a terrible relationship with their father, just for decades. They did not get along. Did not see eye to eye on pretty much everything. Then life circumstances happened. They ended up living in the same house together for a few months. And as you can understand, adult children living at home plus complicated relationship equaled a lot of explosions. And so my clients decided that after all the fighting and trying to fight to get each other to see each other's side, my client was going to try using the boundaries blueprint. And they said, I'm so proud of them. They said, I appreciate that you don't agree with my life choices, and I would love to feel supported by my dad. And the father, what do you mean I don't support you? All the things. And my client stayed quiet. And then when it was their turn, they said, yes, and I would love to feel supported by my dad. And they did this about 2 or 3 times, and eventually their dad just yelled, I don't know how to support you.
The
truth. And both of them were like, whoa. And this led to them having the best conversation and the deepest they've ever had. And according to my client, that one conversation changed their entire relationship.
Wow. So, and that was the next thing I want to talk to you about is this idea of testing. Is that testing boundaries where you have to say it 3 times? Is that what you were referring to, or is that something different?
I talk about it in the book. It's not really testing boundaries. It's more about working with how someone learns, the way that the brain operates based on patterns. Right. Unless you have the kind of memory where you see it, know it. Most of us need repeated exposures for our neurology to be like, duh, pay attention. So the first time you encounter something, your brain probably deletes it. It's one of the millions of conversations this person had that day. While it's your boundary and it's very important to you, it's very likely to get lost in the shuffle of their brain. Right. That doesn't mean they don't like you or disrespect you. It just, right? And so it takes 2, 3 times for people's brains to start to be like, pattern. Because if it happens once, one off, bottom of the to-do list. Happens twice, maybe a pattern. Neurology's paying attention, but still lower on the list. 3+ times, now it's a pattern. Now your neurology is going to start being like, okay, this is something we need to notice more of. So it's really not about someone's testing your boundaries like they're out to get you. Like they're going to scale that wall we built and try to invade us. It's more just that their brain didn't prioritize your boundary because it's new. Give them a second. So I talk about how to give feedback and give compassionate feedback, again, using linguistic formulas. So that's a whole chapter of when this human comes and stomps all over the boundary you just worked so friggin' hard to put up.
Right.
How to respond, what to do, and how to offer some kindness and compassion to help guide this other human into learning what it is you want. Because you just figured out what you wanted, and you finally gave voice to what you wanted. And now they have to just know what you wanted. It took you decades to figure it out. Give them a second.
Yeah, I really am hearing this whole idea. I think that when people think of boundaries, Jennifer, they think about it so adversarial, like they have to win, right? And what I hear you saying is that this is like gently, well, going through the process, first of all, to understand what you need and you want. I think so many people don't even actually take that pause to do the first step and get clear on it. You know, like, what do I actually need and want? You know, I just don't want you to be an asshole doesn't really work.
Right. It lets the person know what you don't want. So in the book, there are, activities with each chapter to start walking you through the process of who am I? What are my core needs? What do I want? If boundaries are what I want and don't want, what I have control over, what I don't have control over, where's that line to figure out where do I end and others begin? So if you read the book and then follow all the different activities, by the time you're done, I've set it up so that it's not just about boundaries, but it's about how to use boundaries and your language as the starting point for a really exquisite healing journey. That a lot of us think that it has to be so hard to change from the inside and that there's something functionally broken with us. But it turns out that when we change how we speak about ourselves in the world, when we use linguistic patterns and know what we want, and when we know I talk about sourcing energy, how to do things that actually make us feel good. That's an important part of boundaries too. It's not just about what I keep out, but what do I let in?
Right.
Like help and support and guidance and success. Right. So my goal is I'd love to change how we talk about boundaries. I'd love to change how people think about boundaries, because for too long it's been thought of as drawing a line in the sand.
Right.
That's literally what, and all the images that you see are pictures of lines in the sand. But what happens when you want to get into an intimate relationship or a close friendship with someone? Well, now how do I authentically share who I am without losing myself? Right? Or so if there's a line in the sand, I can't get there. And if there's no line at all, I don't know where I am. That's no fun either.
Well, I think that's really interesting because I remember when I read way back, like Melody Beattie, Codependent No More, right? And it was very, very much like line in the sand vibes, And then she came back and she wrote another book and she sort of said well, so I did that, but I was alone and lonely and had no people in my life. And so now it's like, how do you go beyond that idea of codependency, right? And actually have this integrated life where you are trying to create connection through boundaries, not push people away. Yeah. What do you say to people as we wrap up here, how to get over their fear to try to let down or take down that wall? Because I would guess that if someone feels that safety in their boundary and they feel lonely, but they also would like to be connected and they're just terrified, I'd rather be alone than hurt, what are some words of encouragement or some strategies or some questions that you have for them to help them get the courage up to practice?
So there's a difference between I'm nervous about doing this new thing and I think I can do it, but I'm scared of it, but I think I can do it. And there's no way I can do this because the terror level just goes too high.
Yes.
So if the terror level goes too high, then there's something deeper that needs to be addressed. Selfishly, I'm like, come work with me or find someone to work with. Work with you, work with a coach, work with a therapist, work with someone. Find someone who has a perspective that's not in your brain. There's a reason I always say you don't have to work with me as a coach, but please work with a coach who has a coach, because I have my blind spot. My life is my blind spot.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I'm in it. And so if you can't get there, if it's too big of a fear, then find someone who can help you navigate it or move, not just move through the fear, but allow it to change you in a way that you come out stronger on the other side versus trying to fight the fear. Find someone who can teach you how to leverage your fear as opposed to trying to deny your humanity. So I say that if you're in that camp, if you're in I think I can do this, but it's going to feel super, really gross. Say then, awesome, you know that you can do it. So just decide that you want to give it a go more than you're afraid of it. You have to put that desire ahead of it. So if you're in that camp and you can do that, just play with the formula. Like I said, the boundaries blueprint, play with the linguistics. You don't have to feel confident. In fact, you can't yet, because confidence is an equation. So it's competence demonstrated over time.
Right.
So you can be competent in something and feel no confidence whatsoever. And so once you know the formula, once you know the boundaries, blueprints, and how to use your language, you can be competent in the skill, even if you're terrified out of your gourd.
Yeah, because your brain and your little emotional child or whatever are like, I don't know. I'm sure you're going to be good at this, but I don't really want to put myself out there like that.
Well, it's new. So there's a part of the brain called the amygdala. And so when something new happens, our brain's like, what is this? Is this going to kill us? And so it puts us on heightened alert. And so if that heightened alert takes you so far over threshold that you can't find your way back, find someone who can help you leverage it. If you hit that point and you're like still within your threshold and just like it feels gross, congratulations, that's what change and healing feels like. They told us it was supposed to feel like peace sitting on a lotus flower, but it doesn't. Change feels gross sometimes, and healing. I always like to tell people that when you have a wound, like a skin wound, when it's healing, it doesn't feel good. It itches.
Right.
So healing wounds itch. And so it's supposed to feel a little gross in the beginning. That means you're doing it right. So I'd say if you're in that camp, keep going.
That's amazing. And I'm looking on your the website, which is going to be in the show notes, and I just love the categories. You're like, for when your love for them doesn't tolerate putting up with their stuff, and when your calendar looks like it's plotting against you. There's like all these different ways in which not having boundaries shows up. You have in here when your brain says no and your mouth says fine, like.
Yep.
And I think the other thing I'm really getting from you too is that I think that people who do a lot of personal growth or self-help, we come up with, we do the work and then we're not a puddle on the floor. And that's great. Like for your story, like your mom's not shitting on you anymore. And that's feels way better than the opposite. And then there's this level where we just put the silver lining, toxic positivity, we tolerate and we get into the fine because, we're afraid to like use our voice because it took so long to just get back to feeling like solid. And I think that what you're sharing is so powerful because it's like, how can you be in connection with other people and also not default back to the way it used to be?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I talk about is the different stages of our development, from dependency into codependency into independence and beyond. And so when we are new to the planet or new to anything, we're in a dependency phase. So if you just got a new job, you show up the first day, you don't know anything, so you're completely dependent on someone. Codependency stage is like our toddlerhood or a new job. That's where you know what to do, but you're shadowing someone. So codependency means it takes two people to manage one job. In an emotional connection, when it needs two people to manage one person's emotions. So I can't calm myself down. I need you to keep me happy. I need you to keep me calm. So two people doing one job. Healing from codependency brings us into independence, where I know what I need to do and I don't need you. And we think that's the end of the journey. We think that's healed. But moving into a space of interdependence, where I have my space and you have your space and we have an overlapping space. In the book, I talk about sacred geometry and the overlapping of two circles and the shape that it creates there, and how that's symbolic of the birthplace of creation. So when we allow our space to overlap enough with someone else that we can bring who we are to it and have this negotiated space where we can learn from each other, that's the interdependence. That's where we can say, I know I don't need you. And I know that having you around improves my life and gives me opportunities to know things about myself that I couldn't have known without you. So that's where we need to get to. So I think a lot of people on the heal journey, they've bought into the idea that independence is the end goal. And we have a lot of very independent, strong people who are lonely and don't know how to have relationships that don't implode. So learning and the only difference between codependence and interdependence is boundaries. That's the only difference.
I love it.
That's the only difference. And so we can do it. We just need to put in boundaries. And now we can connect with people without losing ourselves.
Without being a dick.
Without being a dick. Yes. It can feel good too. It can actually feel good to speak up. Yeah.
I love it. Ladies, I hope, share this episode for sure. With the people in your life who you think would benefit. And there's so much in here that we can go back and revisit to life check ourselves. You want to make sure you go to btgwellness.com/book. The link is in the show notes. Definitely everyone I know would be so served by having this book in their bookshelf, not just to look at, but to actually read and practice. It's just been such a pleasure learning so much from you. And I'm really, really excited that you are putting this into the world. So thank you for sharing it.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much. This is a wonderful chat. I really enjoyed it.
Ladies, you heard the woman. Set boundaries, but don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. Don't be nice. Don't be a dick.
Don't be nice. Don't be a dick.
Be compassionate.
Learn the language trick.
Yes.
Get Jennifer Fable's book. Life check yourself. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now. Hey, thanks for tuning in today. Listen, if you're feeling stuck, I want you to know you're not alone. And you don't have to settle for it. I've created a free quiz to help you pinpoint what's draining your energy and exactly how you can fix it. So head over to decodeyourdestinyquiz.com and take the 60-second quiz right now. That's decodeyourdestinyquiz.com. And if you're ready to dive deeper, you can book a free no-obligation consultation at marnibatista.com/private coaching. That's Marni, M-A-R-N-I, Batista, B-A-T-T-I-S, as in Sam, T-A.com/private coaching, all one word. Let's take the first step to creating a life you love on your terms. I'm Marni, and I'll see you next time.